Hi everybody, it's my pleasure to be giving you this seminar on how to combine ragas and makams and create simple compositions. First, let's discuss what is a raga and what is a makam. First of all, let me say that ragas and makams are not scales. Okay, please don't think about them as being scales. They sometimes look like scales, or they can be based on scales, even that not really. But somehow that has become a bit of a myth that a raga is like a scale, an Indian scale, or something like this. So let's start with a raga. A raga is, you can say it's something like a characterized scale. Like, to be really honest with you, the topic of ragas and makams is something that really to go into properly will take years, actually. So in 1 hour, I'm going to try to sort of cover like basically 20 years of what should take 20 years to study. So everything I'm going to present to you is going to be really on superficial level. Hopefully this will kind of whet your appetite to maybe go into these subjects deeper. And when you do, be prepared to take your time with it, because these are deep topics. So this is all really going to be kind of just very, not superficial, but kind of superficial. So let me just go through these things quickly and to give you a quick idea of what we're dealing with here, right? So a raga, you could sort of say, is like a characterized scale, meaning that you have the scale, but you have grammar attached to it. So you have some notes which are more important than others, some notes very important, some notes that you just barely touch on, okay? And you also have a direction of, like when you go up, you play a certain sequence of notes, and when you go down, so you have the ascending scale and the descending scale. Sometimes they're the same going up and down, sometimes they're different. Sometimes you have to do twists and you have characteristic phrases in certain ragas. So basically you have a lot of grammatic rules attached to the scale. Okay. Now a makam, so a raga is what you find in India, okay, the Indian melodic system. And a raga is also a fixed, a movable tonic system. So when you sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, you can start that sa from any note you want, and then you sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, whatever. So as soon as before you play a raga, you decide on which tonic you're going to use, and then sa is the tonic, re is the second note, ga is the third, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. You can shift that whole thing, but once you shift it, you can never shift sa to a different note in the middle of a raga. So once you pick your tonic, and then you have a drone, and then from that you have all of the melodic notes, which is going to be based on that drone. So with a makam, makam is kind of similar. Makam is what you find in the Middle East. You can almost say a Middle Eastern equivalent of a raga, but it's still quite different in the sense of when you look at makams, what you immediately realize is that you're dealing with tetrachords and pentachords. Okay, so it's like half scales. Okay, so sometimes you have trichords also, but again, let's not complicate the matter, because actually everything that I'm telling you, there are always exceptions to everything. So somebody can hear this and go, oh, well, what about that, right? So what I'm doing is I'm giving you what is the most common scenario for this music. And again, everything, there are exceptions, so nothing that I'm telling you is really like the whole story. So this is like a quick version of telling you what is mostly happening, what is most commonly happening in this music. So let's just talk about tetrachords and pentachords. So when you have like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, or let's just use numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1 is the tonic, 8 is the octave, 5 is the fifth, 4. Okay, now if you have a pentachord, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Then what you're going to have on top of that is a tetrachord. 5, 6, 7, 8, and the connection point is the fifth, okay? So the pentachord, the top note of the pentachord is the fifth, and the bottom note of the tetrachord is the fifth also. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the shared note, we'll call that the dominant, okay? Forget about the Western meaning of the word dominant and subdominant. In Oriental music, the word dominant means something different. The word dominant means where's the connection point between the two half scales that you're connecting, okay? So, if you have a pentachord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, and then the tetrachord, 5, 6, 7, 8. Conversely, if the bottom half scale is a tetrachord, then the top part has to be a pentachord. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the dominant. That's the connection point. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 is shared by both. Okay? So that's what you have with makams mostly. And with ragas, you have many possible scales and scales again, but you have many possible scales. Many ragas. But with makams, it's very interesting. You only have about maybe 15 different tetrachords and pentachords. Only about 15. But they, you take one, for example, the Rust tetrachord, and you can start that from any note, okay? That's the difference. You can start each of the 15 half scales, tetrachords or pentachords. You can start it from any note. And so that's where you get tons of variations. You start it from any note, and then you can combine, so you have all sorts of combinations of these 15 half scales, and starting from various notes, and so right there you have a huge amount of possibilities are almost endless. But the makam system seems very complicated, but really if you start with just learning those 15 half scales and learn how to transpose them everywhere, then that's what the system really is in a nutshell, actually. Okay, so now that we understand that, more or less what a raga and what a makam is, let's say, how do we combine ragas and makams? Now this, of course, is not a traditional concept. I mean, now we talk about ragas and makams, those are traditional things, traditional Middle Eastern and Indian music. Now when we talk about combining ragas and makams, okay, this is something very modern, okay? This is a modern concept to do that, and very few people have even attempted that. And the most common way that has been done is a very superficial, like what you'll see happening is what you see this many times, like a famous Indian artist will get together with a famous Middle Eastern artist, a Turkish or Arabic, and then they'll get together. And unfortunately, usually the case is that neither of those two musicians knows anything about what the other, like the Arab guy has no idea really about Indian music, the Indian guy has no idea about Arab music, so they get together, what are we going to play? So they think up through their ragas and makams that they each have, and they go, what about this, oh, and they find ragas and makams that have similar scales, like the Arabic guy will say, what about Hijaz? And they'll play that, and they go, oh, that sounds like a raga basant mukri, kind of a similar scale, and they'll match up sort of similar scales and then play together. So it sort of works, right? So, but this is a very superficial attempt to combine a raga and makam. It's not combining anything really. It's really just choosing ragas and makams that have some similarity, and that way they won't clash too much when they play together. And of course the effect, with great musicians, the effect can be beautiful and totally worthwhile. I'm not trying to be condescending and criticize it, but I do want to point out that this is well, this is what's being done. This is how far this concept has gone at the moment. So I myself looked at this and tried to find a deeper way to approach this challenge of how to combine a raga and makam, and I came up with a way of actually truly meshing ragas and makams together and combining actually what they are at the DNA level, which means like not just trying to match what you know to something you don't know. It's actually learn about ragas, learn about makams, understand both, and then really bring them together. So that's been my goal, and I made a CD about doing this, which is called Rag Makam, and I'll try to attach that. Attach a file there, so if you're interested you could check that out. It also has some liner notes where you can read about, or I describe what I'm doing, which is basically what I'm going to describe to you now. But you can hear that CD, and so you can hear at least how I've done it. So if you like that, then that's great. So let me explain to you the system that I came up with to combine ragas and makams, and encourage you to try to do that yourself. Now what I'm going to do is, to really do that fully, you would have to study the ragas and study the makams and then do it. So what I'm going to give you a shortcut, and I'm going to give you a bunch of samples, right? And just say, here are 10 samples of raga material, and here are 10 samples of makam material, and you choose which ones you like, and then you combine them how you like. Now let me explain that further. The core of this system of combining ragas and makams is based on the makam idea of the half scales. Now in makams, the idea of tetrachords and pentachords is very obvious. I mean, you can't do anything with makams unless you really tackle this concept of tetrachords and pentachords. You have to think in terms of tetrachords and pentachords with makams. With ragas, you don't need to really do that, but it is there, the same. It is there. Ragas also have tetrachords and pentachords. Some ragas, this tetrachords and pentachords are just really obvious. And most, in fact, it is really obvious. But some is just blatantly obvious, because you have a phrase in the lower tetrachord, and then there's a mirror of that in the upper. So it's very obvious in many makams. But what we're going to do, so we do that already with makams. So let's do that with ragas. Let's look at all of the ragas and break them into half scales. Okay? Now, when you do that with ragas, what you find is that you'll have a tetrachord and a pentachord, or a pentachord and a tetrachord, same as the makams. Now when you break the raga, kind of the scale, break it in half into a tetrachords and pentachords, then what you can do is you can really analyze each half and ask yourself, which half is really giving the character of that raga? Because like every person, you're either a left-handed person or you're a right-handed person. Say, I'm a left-handed person, right? So you could say, I'm the left side is strong in me. So that's what's really giving me my character as a left hand, right? The right hand kind of does whatever it does. But so when you look at the raga and you say that first pentachord is really capturing the mood of the raga, and the other one, like I'll give you an example of that. A really good example is raga Saraswati. Okay, So Raga Saraswati is like. So the lower pentachord is sa re ma pa. Okay, there's no third. Okay, they just ping. They got rid of the third. Okay, that's the lower half scale. The upper is pa da ni sa sa ni da pa. So which is giving the character? Look, pa da ni sa sa ni da pa. That phrase is found in 5,000 different ragas. You know. Sa ni da pa 8 7 6 5 da 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 da. That's found in many ragas. But the lower part is sa sa re ma pa. That's sa re ma pa. That tetrachord, it's actually a pentachord minus the third, I would call it, but whatever. That combination of notes is found in only one raga, Saraswati. Okay? So you see what it means? Sa re ma pa. If you play just those notes, pa ma pa ma re re sa re ma 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 da 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 da. That can only be Raga Saraswati. Those phrases, that combination of notes is only found in that raga. Whereas if I go na 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 sa ni da pa, sorry, sa ni da pa, yeah, sa ni da pa. If I play those four notes, that can be like Hemavati. There's so many thousands of other ragas that have those notes. So if I do sa ni da pa, what raga? Well, it could be many. Get the point? So we can do that with every raga, and we can see which half is grabbing the raga and which half is generic. It's more like a filler, not a filler, because that common upper, it does sort of help give, embellish the characteristic half. But the point is, you look at each raga, find which half is giving the character. So when I do that, so sa re ma pa, I'll give that tetrachord the name, Saraswati tetrachord. Okay? It's not Saraswati raga. No, you have to have the full thing for the raga, but I've allowed myself artistic license to name that. I name that now. Saraswati tetrachord. Okay? So we can do that with all ragas. So what I've done is, in my own study of ragas, I've studied about 100 ragas. And I would say that in my practical, useful knowledge of, like immediate knowledge of ragas, is about 40 ragas that I really have on the tip of my brain. I just play them, right? So, but my total knowledge is about 100, right? So the other 60 is sort of, oh yeah, what's that? I gotta look in my books. And, oh yeah, that kind of thing. So, and that's the same with makams. That's about 100, studied about 100 and have about 40 like on the tip of my brain. Now, from all of those, I look through, so I isolate, so I just put two lists then not the full raga, but the tetrachord or pentachord from each of the characteristic, as I described, the characteristic tetrachord or pentachord from that raga, from those ragas. And the same with makams. And then matched them up together. Now, there's the trick, is how to match them up, okay? So, if you have, so what you want to do here is you want to pick a tetrachord, one tetrachord and one pentachord. Okay, so you have a pentachord, you'll put the pentachord, if you want to start with the pentachord, so you pick one tetrachord, one tetrachord and one pentachord, and you decide which one you want to have as the lower half scale and which one you want to have as the top. Okay, so what I would recommend is pick what you want as the lower. See what attracts you as the lower tetrachord or pentachord. If what attracts you is a particular tetrachord, then you're going to need to have a pentachord to finish off the scale. Conversely, if what you like on the bottom is a pentachord, then you're going to need a tetrachord, and the connecting point will be the dominant note. There, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of thing. So there's a shared note there. Okay? So I want to make sure I didn't get ahead of myself and look at my notes here. Ragas and makams and the dominant. Okay. Create a list, experiment. Yeah, so pretty much I've gone through my notes there, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a whole bunch of possibilities to choose from. Okay, so first we'll go through the ragas, the raga half scales, okay, and I'll just give you a list and I'll play you some examples, and you're going to choose one from those that you like, okay? And, well, first of all, so you're going to choose one of them, and then I'm going to play the makam tetrachords and pentachords, and you're going to choose one of those that you like, okay? And you're going to combine both of them. But the trick here is you need to decide which one. Do you want to have a raga on the lower, like you have the lower tetrachord, and then the upper tetrachord? Do you want to have a raga on the lower or a makam on the lower? If you have a makam on the lower, you've got to put the raga on the top, right? So again, it has to be, if you start with a tetrachord on the bottom, then you have to have a pentachord on the top, okay? Sorry I'm repeating this, but this is the tricky point. If you want to have a pentachord on the bottom, you need a tetrachord on the top. Now, where this gets, the only really a little bit tricky and confusing thing about this is the transposition, okay? Because I'm going to play all of these half scales. I'm going to play them all starting from C, okay? Now, the music that we're going to do is going to start from C, okay? That's going to be the tonic that we're going to deal with, is C. But the fourth note, like once we go do, re, mi, fa, so that means that if you start with the tetrachord, it goes up to fa, do, re, mi, fa, goes up to F. So that means that your pentachord, which goes on top, is going to have to start from F, okay? But I've given you everything starting from C. So that means that you're going to have to transpose what I've given you in C to F and make the pentachord from there. Or if you have a pentachord on the bottom, the fifth note is G. So you're going to have to transpose what I've given you in C to G. Now to make that easy, I'm going to give you some sheets to accompany this. Now I didn't write down notes, I just wrote down numbers. For example, I started with Saraswati here, as I showed you. So Saraswati is a, right? 1, 2, 4, sharp 4. 1, 2, 4, 5, 5, 4, 2, 1. Okay, so that should make it easier, you know, so when you want to give you a concrete example of that, okay? So da, 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 da. So that's starting from C. 1, 2, 4, 1. Now, if I want to start that from F, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 4, 5. Okay? You just transpose it, right? Or if you start it from G, it's okay? Okay? So hopefully that's clear. You're going to have to do some transposition because otherwise there are too many possibilities. I would have to give you tons of possibilities. So hopefully this will work for you. Okay, so I'll go through first the ragas. Now, let me be clear about something. When you have a tetrachord or a pentachord, what that means is you will play within those 4 or 5 notes. Now you can just, like, that puts you in a little box, but you can just put your toe outside the box this way or that way. You know, you're not like in jail, right? You can. So it's good to know what is, like, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. You know, it's good to know what is the 6. Like, what is the nice fitting 6th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't want to hang on that 6th note too much, but sometimes the da 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 is nice, right? So it's good to know what that note is. Conversely, it's a da 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 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. It's good to know. So it's good to know what are the notes that are just outside of that pentachord box, right? So good to know that. And you could use those in your compositions. You know, don't overdo it, but just it's good to know that, because if you want to just stretch out a tiny bit, you can do that. So I'll include that also in the notes. So let's go through those ragas and the raga tetrachords and pentachords and makam. So we'll start with Saraswati, as I did already. So 1, 2, 4, 5. Now that's a sharp 4. And no third. Never play the third here. Okay. Now the 7th would be with a flat 7. Okay. And the 6th is a natural 6. Saraswati. Okay, Saraswati, I'll call it a pentachord even though there's only 4 notes because the 3rd is missing. Okay, so pentachord because it goes up to the 5th. Okay? Okay, the next one I got for you is Yaman pentachord. Okay, so the interesting thing about the Yaman pentachord is that when you go up the scale, you don't start on the tonic. You can't start on the tonic. You have to start on the 7th and jump over the tonic to the 2nd. Okay, so you play. So just the notes of the pentachord are. Okay, but you don't play it like that. You have to play na ni re ga ma pa ga re sa ni sa. You can play ni sa 7 1, but if you go past the 1 to the 2, you can't play ni ga 7 1 2. You can't do that. You have to go 7 2. This is what I mean about the characterization of ragas, like the grammar, is that there are sometimes very specific grammatic rules. Okay? It means when you go up the scale in Yaman, is that you have to leapfrog over the tonic and the 5th if you continue up. But we're only going to the 5th now, right? Because we're doing a pentachord. So Yaman would be like 7 7 2 3 4 3 2 1. upper, the sixth is the natural six. Again. Okay. Now, Darbadi. Okay, Darbadi pentachord, it's called that. So the interesting thing about Darbadi is the third note gets bent a lot. So you have it like this. So 1, 2, 3, minor third but bent. 4, 5. Then you have a vakra, it's called a twist when you go down. 5, 4, 3. You can't go da 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 da. You can't go from 3 to 1. When you go down from 3, you have to go back up to 4 and then 3, 4, 2. You can't go. You have to go. Okay? This is a very typical vakra. It's called. So, na, na. And the sixth is a flat six. So, but you can't, again, you might want to be careful with the sixth. If you go outside of the pentachord box with this one, you have to be careful because you can't play. If you go to sixth, you have to touch on 7. Da, 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 da. 4, 5, 6, 7, 5. So there's a trick there, so be careful with that. Flat 7. Always that just 3, 4, 2. You can't go 3, 2, 1. No, you have to go 3, 4, 2, 1. Okay, that's the thing about Darbadi. Okay, the two things about Darbadi is when you go up, you have this real ga, sa, re, ga. It's almost like touching on the major third and falling onto the. It's very microtonal. Okay, Darbadi. Next one is Todi. Okay, Mianki Todi. Okay, so Todi is. That's a flat second, flat third, sharp 4, and if you want to go to the 6th, it's a flat 6. And it's nice to go to the 6th also. And if you want to jump to the 7th, it's the natural 7th. Sorry. All right, Jog. Okay, now Jog is quite a modern raga. It's quite bluesy. sounds kind of like blues a little bit. So it's a very commonly played raga. Now, the interesting thing about jog is there's no second. Well, you could technically call it a sharp second, okay? Because there's actually like the minor third and the major third together. So you could technically call that minor third, call it a double sharp second, I mean, whatever. So I wouldn't do that, but you might write it like that. I'm not sure how I'm going to write that, but you get the idea. You have like them. Call that a minor third or a sharp, double sharp second. So when you go up the scale, you play the major third. 1, 3, 4, 5. When you go down, you play the minor third. Okay, and the seventh, there's no sixth. Okay, so if you're going to go outside of the box, you would 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, flat 7, 5. So you could easily slip into some bluesy. You can get very funky and bluesy there a little bit if that's what you want. If you like bluesy, funky, then use jog. So when you go down, you can play just 5, 4, minor third 1, or even nicer is da 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 ma da 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 da. Or you can go really, you can twist the rule, you can sort of stretch the limits of the rules, and you can play. Okay, you can do that. It's almost like putting two phrases together. And the next phrase, you technically shouldn't do, but if you think of it as two phrases put together, and then put them together fast, you can have that chromatic thing. You can do that. You can fall like. Don't do it too many times, but it's kind of a way. This is the beautiful thing about ragas and makams, is sometimes you can think of clever ways to cheat the rules a little bit, so you can squeeze in some very interesting phrases which would not be so obviously available according to the authentic grammar. But that's how you can get a little more juice out of it. And it's beautiful that way. Okay, so, those were some pentachords. Some more, I've got another one here. Yeah, Madhubanti pentachord also. So Madhubanti is, when you go up, you don't play the second. So the whole, but when you go up, you don't play the second. So it's 1, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's kind of similar to Saraswati. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you're going to go to the seventh, it's a natural seventh. Natural sixth. So I'm just playing a bunch of phrases for you, just so you get a kind of a bring the thing to life. If I just give you the notes, you're going, what is that? So I'm trying to mix a little bit of music here, so you can see if that's attractive if that feeling is attractive there for you. Okay, Madhubandi. Next one, Gunkali. Let's try a little bit of Gunkali. The thing about ragas is every raga is either a morning or an evening raga. Every raga has a time of day. Although in South Indian music they kind of got rid of that aspect, and so we're gonna kind of, we don't have to worry about that right now because we're, you know, makams don't have a time of day, so that aspect of it is gonna be lost somehow. I mean, it doesn't have to completely be. I mean, like, if you ever get into this more deeply, you could think about, okay, well, let's make a morning raga makam. And I think that the more you learn, the more experience you get with ragas and makams, you have a feeling yourself for what an afternoon raga feels like after you've heard a whole bunch of them. You kind of go, oh, that's what happened. Yeah. There are some typical evening ragas have a typical mood, and morning ragas have a typical mood. And some, like morning ragas, use the komal re, like the flat second. Like they're full of that note, and the idea is that you have the sun, and the sun is just coming up. So you have the right, and the evening ragas emphasize a lot of like this flat six, because it's like you're up high in the scale, and that's the end of the day, right? The progression of the scale mirrors the sort of progression. So, like, the evening ragas have more emphasis on the higher notes of the scale, generally speaking, you know. Okay, so Gunkali is a morning raga. So Gunkali is a 5-note raga. So if you just play it as a tetrachord, it's not even a tetrachord, it's 3 notes. Okay, so it would be like Sun, 1, 2, 4. So you're going to want to go outside of the box a little bit otherwise. So what you would do there, you could play up to the 5th. But I mean, you could use this as like a pentachord shape also, right? If you would make it like, you know. So I'll give you like Gunkali tetrachord, which would be focusing on that would be the dominant, and from that 4th note, that's where you would connect your pentachord, right? Now, if you wanted to make it as a pentachord, then you could connect a tetrachord from that note and finish up the scale that way, right? So I hope you're understanding these concepts. If you're not, just, you know, if that's a bit tricky for you, this tetrachords and pentachords and the dominant, like where to connect them, then just contact me and I'll try to explain that to you a little more clearly. But I hope you're getting it. But anyways, if you play it as a tetrachord, it'd be, but the 5th would be outside of the box. And then below, what's the leading tone here? The leading tone is actually the flat 6. It's a very low leading tone. It means if you want to go outside of the box below the tonic, there is no 7th in this raga, so the 6 is flat. So you're like 6, 1, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1. Okay? Cool. Now, if I was to play that like a pentachord, which means emphasizing the 5th, it would be like. let's look at some tetrachords, some raga tetrachords. Now I'm going to change the tuning here so you get the feeling, because with the tetrachord, like with a pentachord, it's very, your ear falls into the 1, 5, but with a tetrachord, in order to help your ear feel that, because with a tetrachord, the fourth note becomes very, very important, okay? It even starts to sound, it feel more like the tonic, okay? When you play a raga tetrachord, the feeling that your ear gets and your brain hears that, like the fourth note starts to feel like the tonic, okay? So how I'm going to accentuate that effect is I'm going to change the tuning of the drone notes to help that, right? Okay, so now this will help your ears too. We'll start with the Bhagashri tetrachord. So just simple, like na, 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 na. But again, when you go up the scale, you don't play. So it's 1, 2, 3, minor third, 4, 3, 2, 1. But when you go up the scale, you don't play the second. Okay, so 1, 3, 4. And if you want to go outside of the box and play, there's no fifth in this raga, so you'd have to go to the sixth, the natural sixth. 7. Oops, mistake. It's not really. You can actually throw in Bhagashri. You can put the fifth in just a little bit. So that wasn't really a mistake, but let's avoid the fifth for now. Sweet raga, and that's Bhagashri. Now let's do Ragashri. That's even sweeter, okay? And it's essentially the same thing, except the third is the major third, okay? So even sweeter. So you have that. Ragashri. Okay, we're almost through the ragas. Makams. Okay, Makams is a midnight raga. Very beautiful, deep raga. So, tetrachord, and there is no fifth, so that's why it's easy to do a tetrachord on this one. There is no possibility for a Makams pentachord. You can't do it. I mean, based on the fifth, basically. So, you have a trichord. You have a 1, 3, 4. So you're going to want to throw in this outside of the box note. The minor sixth is what. And then when below the tonic is the flat 7. actually make this even, I'm going to change the tuning here. Oops. Now I have this string here tuned to a fifth to give you even more of a feeling of that fourth. You're going to tune that to the fourth. That's better. Gives more of a feeling for makams. The last raga here, okay, will be bin sharaj. Now this is like my Guruji said, it sounded like a honey and lemon, this one. So Sagama, very similar to Ragashri, except you have no second. And the seventh, if you want to jump outside of the box, is sharp, like a natural seventh, not the flat seventh. But otherwise, these three notes is the same as Ragashri. But you have same as Ragashri also. But Ragashri will go. But Binasharaj has no second, so you would. And then you could embellish that tonic with going to the seventh. Oops, I tuned the notes. Flat, sharp seven, natural seven. 7, 1, 3, 4, 3, 1, 7, 1. So there you have it for the ragas. Now I'm going to do the makams. And first I have to find my mizrab. Here it is. Okay. So, again, let me state that all of these half scales that I'm giving you are starting from C. Okay. So you're going to have to transpose them. At least one of them. Okay, one of them you can start on C, of course. You must start on C. And then the second one you'll have to transpose, as I said earlier. Okay, but I'm showing you everything in C. Okay, so let's start with the Rast. Now, Rast, you can present it as a tetrachord or a pentachord. Okay, so let me give you the Rast tetrachord to begin with. Okay, so now the makam notes have possibilities for microtones, like quarter tones, and not just quarter tones, but sometimes slightly sharp notes. The Indian music also has that, but it's more like the intonation of Indian music is more just intonations. It's close to the Western piano notes, the 12-tone equal temperament. It's close to that, but it's just intonation. It's the natural tuning. And some notes, as I demonstrated, float around in the microtonal areas, for sure. But it's not really, those microtones are never like really notated, or they're never really officially designated as microtones in Indian music. So you still just call it like the flat third, which is the komal ga, major third, shuddha. So you have the names of these notes as they would be in the 12 notes per octave, right? But with makams, you have a lot more official notes, which are, a lot of them are very microtonal, right? And they need a little explanation, each one, and they shift around. So rust would be like 1, 2, but the third note, let's just simplify it and call it a quarter tone. It's like somewhere halfway between a major third and a minor third. And 4 is normal. So that would be the rust tetrachord. You want to go down to the 7th. 7th is also microtonal. That's the halfway between a flat 7 and a natural 7th. Okay, so you can put that note in also. Tetrachord, I'm emphasizing the 4th note, and I'm not doing much with the 5th note, right? So, now let's play rust as a pentachord. So it's the same as what I just did, except you add the 5th and you emphasize it also. So you go. And if you want to go above the 5th, put in the 6th. Okay? Rust. Tetrachord or pentachord. Next, ushak. Now, I'm just going to contradict something that I said a few seconds ago, in which when I said that everything I'm going to demonstrate is using C as the tonic, I just realized that that was blubé. Most of these, rust and maybe nikris, I'm demonstrating from C, but all the rest I realize actually I'm demonstrating from D. Okay? So, the reason why I'm doing that is because, well, I don't want to get into a huge long explanation, but basically makams, like with ragas, you start with sa and that never changes. With makams, it's slightly different. You have a tuning system, and within that tuning system, you can have several different tonics. Okay, you're still you're locked. You can't change tuning systems in the middle of a piece. But within that system, you can have several tonics. So you can change. Your ear sounds like you're going into you shifted into a different tonic. That's why in Arabic music, you sometimes feel that the tonic changed, the bass note changed. And it did somehow, but the tuning system didn't change. So in this system, if you play rust makam from C, then ushak makam or hijaz or sabah will be from D. Okay? And shadarban will be from G, and from chargia will be from F. You know, so there are many, like within that system, so the whole system can change. So that's why I'm doing that, and also with the way the oud is laid out. I mean, yeah, I can play ushak from C. I can do it, but it starts becoming, you have to start using a lot of, you don't have as much access to the open strings, and when you have a fretless instrument, you kind of want to take advantage of the open strings as much as possible, because it's not like with a guitar that you can play anywhere because it's fretted, right? So, anyways, let's play now Ushak from D, okay? But still, I'm going to give you the names. I'm not going to say D, E, F. I'm going to give you the names, 1, 2, 3. That way you can transpose it easily, hopefully easily. So this becomes the tonic. Now you have 1, and the 2, the second note, is that quarter tone, which is halfway between the flat second and the natural second. Ushak tetrachord. Now let's play Ushak pentachord, which technically would actually be called Husseini. Okay, Husseini pentachord, right? But it's the same notes. The reason why that is the fifth note of an Ushak makam or scale. The fifth note is actually the Husseini note. In makams, every note has a name. Okay, same with ragas, of course, but okay. 1, 2, microtone, 3, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6. Now Hijaz, again from D. Hijaz is a very, very misunderstood makam, and quite frankly it gets butchered quite a bit because it gets transposed into Western, like the piano tuning, and it loses really the character because like what happens with Hijaz. If you play it like a piano, you have like a... Everybody's heard that Arabic scale, the typical Arabic scale. And okay, that's the flat second, natural third, major third. Okay. The problem with that is that the real Hijaz uses... second is not just a flat second, it's flat second plus 1 comma. It's a little sharper. And the third is not a major third, it's a bit more flat. More like that. So rather than playing these two, we play with these two fingers. Like these two fingers, and it... stop emphasizing the fourth note, bring in the fifth note, and emphasize the fifth note. Hijaz, pentachord. Flat 6. Now, let's do segya. Segya tetrachord and segya pentachord. Some makams start getting really weird, really crazy actually, because let me try to explain this one. Again, if you have a taste for the blues, then you might want to use this one, because you can make it sound kind of bluesy. Because it has that kind of major third and minor third going together. Although in reality it's not really theoretically that at all, but the way the ear hears it, that's what it is. So let me try to explain. Now I'm gonna play this from D, and it feels like that's the tonic, but the weirdest thing about this one is actually the third is the tonic. Okay, so I won't go into a big explanation of that, but keep in mind that the major third here is actually the tonic, so that, if you use this, that's the central note. You want to use that note a lot and resolve your phrases around that note, okay? If you want to get the feeling of segya, okay? So, this is D, it's really not the tonic, but for you to understand it, it's easier to, first of all, think in terms of this being the tonic, okay? So you'd have, and again that third is again, it's more like a very flat, very microtonal. Like this distance between the minor third and the major third is actually tiny. And then between this, it's not the major third really, I shouldn't say that, it's a microtone. A quarter tone. Same note as rust, right? 4. 1, 3, 3, 4. I'll call this minor third, I'll call it a sharp 2. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. So that's the tonic actually. Yeah, that's why I have like so very basically it's that's the tetrachord. If we make a pentachord out of it, let's just add the fifth and emphasize the fifth, okay? So one, finish it on the third. Finish the whole thing. Never, don't finish on the D. Finish it on the third. Must be. Okay. Okay, we're almost finished. 3 more to go. Sabah. Again, we're getting crazy here. The Sabah is juicy. Like this is, but heavy. Okay, so Sabah. Let's start with Sabah tetrachord, and we can then make the pentachord out of it. Now it's the same as Ushak, except the 4th note goes nuts. Okay, so remember Ushak was 1, these 3 notes. 1, 2, quarter tone 2, 3, flat 3. But in Sabah, the 4th note is like a flat 4. Okay? So oops. Early in the morning here. Still got jet lag. Just arrived from Canada. Let me play here properly. Okay, now let's make it into a pentachord. So, Ushak, Sabah pentachord, okay? So we'll do what we just did and then add the 5th. 1, quarter tone 2, minor 3rd, flat 4, which is like a major 3rd, and then 5th. Okay. Now let's do Nikris. Now Nikris will only be a pentachord because the 4th is a sharp 4, and unless you want to start, I mean, theoretically you can do it. You can make a pentachord going to the sharp 4 and then some kind of something to get there, but don't go there. You can do anything, really. That's the thing. You can do anything. This is just music. This is not. There are no restrictions. Okay, music is art, so there are no restrictions. But for now, just stay with the natural 4 and the natural 5. Don't try to combine when you have a sharp 4. Don't make a pentachord, a tetrachord out of that. You'll get nuts. So because Nikris has the sharp 4, we'll just make that as a pentachord. So Nikris, again, we'll back down to C as the tonic. And you have like 1, 2, 3, okay, minor 3rd, regular 2nd, natural 2nd, minor 3rd, sharp 4, 5, okay? No microtonal notes here. I mean, in fact, if you want to really get technical about this, this 3rd should be a little bit sharp, and this 4th should be a little bit flat. In fact, that's the same. It's actually a mode of Hijaz. So if you want to go back and look at Hijaz, which was from there. Now, if you just want to add this, extend the scale to the 7th and start the scale from the 7th, it's the same as Hijaz, but starting the scale from C. So if you play Hijaz from D, but start from C and call C the tonic, you have Nikris, actually. So I apologize, I don't want to get too technical here and confuse everybody, but so if you're not going to use the Nikris, then you don't need to learn this, right? So I don't want to overload you all. This is a lot of information. Just choose the ones that you like, and then listen very, very carefully to those, the descriptions I have for those. The rest you don't have to. You'll be studying this for the next 10 years, right? If you do that. But anyways, this Nikris. Let's get back to Nikris. More in the folk music, more lighter Arabic and Turkish compositions. It's not so classical. So. Dance tunes. That's kind of. Very famous. Nikris. Okay, so there you have a good sampling of raga and makam, tetra and pentachords. Okay, so as I explained earlier, just try to find one raga, tetra or pentachord that you like, one makam, tetra or pentachord that you like, and it's not just that you like them, it's more, the real point here is find tetrachords and pentachords that you think will, when they are put together and matched up, the effect will be something special, something beautiful. Otherwise, just play like Raga Saraswati, just play Raga Saraswati, or Raga Makam Ras, just play Makam Ras. But if you think, I mean, the reason why I kind of got into this is because I could see that the evolution of ragas, I mean, ragas have been evolving for a long time, and at this point it's kind of reached, and the same with makams, they've reached a kind of saturation point of what can be done more. Like ragas have been, like you have now a lot of combined ragas, like people are not really coming up with so much new ragas, and all the scales, and it's been exhausted. So the new ragas which are coming out now are combinations of different ragas put together, like compound ragas. It's the same with makams. You have a lot of compound makams now. So it feels to me that within the raga sphere and within the makam sphere, it's pretty much reached its saturation point. It's exhausted somehow. So how to progress further within modal music? And it seems to me that the ragas and makams have a family resemblance. So why not start borrowing from each other's system? You know, like if you want to make a new raga, why not borrow a bit from the makam, or a new makam borrow a bit from the raga, or just bring them two together. So you have like two new DNA pools that you can bring together into perhaps a hybrid, a new kind of music. Because let's face it, all new music is always some sort of a hybrid, you know. Like, you know, the blues is a mix between African music and European folk music or whatever. And even Indian music, you know, whenever you have an influx, like when the Mughal emperors came into North India, you know, 700 years ago, they brought in all this Islamic kind of music, which was into sort of the Hindu music, and that's what you have North Indian music, whereas the South Indian music is much less, is more what the original Indian music was before the Islamic empires came. So this is the reason why we're doing this, is to try to bring some new life, into systems which are already maybe have reached their limit. Okay, so do that. Come up with your own rag makam, and then make a composition. Now I'll just give you, you can do it any way you want, but I'll give you an easy way to just come up with a composition. So what you want to do is think in terms of like one line, just short, one line, which would be 4 bars of 4/4, which is actually one of the most common rhythmic cycles in Indian music, and also in Middle Eastern music. So in Indian music you have the teen tal, which is a 16-beat cycle, which is similar to like 4 bars of 4/4, and that's like da din din da da din din da da din din la ga din din da da din din da da din da din din la ga din da da din din. So 4 bars of 4/4, and you can do it at any speed. Let's say the slowest you would want to do it would be more like da, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. And the fastest would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. If you want to do a very fast one, you could do it like that. But anywhere in between those tempo ranges is fine. So take your rag makam and make a 4-bar phrase from that. Okay? Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you show both tetrachords, that you show the whole thing within, don't just focus on one little part, like show the whole scope of that rag makam within those 4 bars, okay? Now that's going to be your main line, and the performers are going to use that main line to repeat, and then start improvising on it and embellishing it, and starting with short embellishments and leading to longer improvisations, but always coming back to that main line. Now you don't have to worry, you as the composer don't have to worry about the improvisation. That's the job of the performer. All you need to do is come up with a very nice sounding 4-bar main line that will encapsulate the whole rag makam. Okay, so the improvisation comes a bit later in the performance part. So first the main line will be played. Then what you want to do is you want to have another line, which is just 16 beats. You can do longer if you want, but it's minimum of the 16 beats, 4 bars of 4/4 it's called the manja. It's the lower, like what you want to do is you go below the octave, or that doesn't have to all be below the octave, but the idea is that you want to show what's happening with this rag makam when you go into the lower notes, okay? So just, again, 16 beats is enough. Create a line which is showing what's happening in the lower notes. And of course, what I mean by lower, like when you go below the tonic. So in the main octave, you'll have your tetrachord or pentachord, and then you'll have the tetrachord or pentachord going up to the octave, okay? So this higher tetrachord or pentachord is going to be repeated down here, below the octave, okay? So when you start making phrases below the tonic, then you use that tetrachord or pentachord, which, and then this one comes up like that. So, of course, by the same token, when you go above the octave, you're again using that first one. So here's the main octave. It's like this. Octave is here, and then this one jumps up there. So when you go up to above the octave, you're again playing this one, but a higher octave. It's pretty simple, really. So the first variation is called the manja, and that's 16 or 4-bar phrase which shows what happens in the lower notes. Okay? Now that will be kind of repeated twice, probably only. Just as a variation, just repeat it twice, then back to that main line again. Now the third thing you want to do is compose, let's say not just 4 bars, let's say 8 bars, so it'll be a 32 beat line, which is showing what happens in the higher register of this rag makam, and in particular what happens when you go above the octave. Okay, so show that in a 32 beat or an 8 bar line, and that's it. That's all you got to do. So 3 lines, 1 4-bar line showing what happens in the main octave, and that should be very catchy because that one's going to be repeated, so you want to have that one be really, really good. Okay, the 2 variations, I mean, they don't have to be spectacularly cool. I mean, just because they're only just repeated. They're played once or twice, so those are not so important. Make sure that your main line is really right on, and then the second one is again 4 bars showing the lower notes. The third one is 8 bars, 32 beats showing the higher notes, and that's it. Okay, so it's been a real pleasure to do this for you all, and I look forward to whatever comes next in this seminar. If we're going to have a Zoom as question answer, or the concert, if we're not all locked in our houses for the next 2 years. I hope not. Let's see what happens. So anyways, it's been really fun. So thank you all for listening. Bye for now.